Order. Is this on? It is on. It is on. Okay. It is now. Please silence your cell phones. Just take a moment and silence your cell phones. And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business tonight is a celebration. We're a little bit late, but tonight we're recognizing the Asheville Tourists for being the 2014 South Atlantic League champions. And I know we've got some folks here with the Asheville Tourists, the general manager, Larry Hawkins. If you all could come forward and tell us a little bit about your season and your giant trophy and your... I'm sorry. And Brian DeWine's here as well? Yes.
Put it right here.
All right.
I like that.
Yeah. Woo!
I'm Brian DeWine, owner of the Asheville Tourist. Larry could not be here, did go on a trip. Glad to bring the trophy back to Asheville. It was actually gone for 1 year, so 2 times in 3 years is pretty good. We're very honored to bring it here. Something at our offices we're just as proud of is that this is the largest attended season in Form Field. So just in the championship, we had a great year at the championship, and a lot of fans came out, but it would not be possible. Everyone in this room, council, all the city workers, without you guys, the Forward Field wouldn't exist, the tourists wouldn't exist, and it's great for you guys' support. It's also great to see all of you guys out at games. I love we have 2 or 3 council members out at the game every night. It's great to see you guys there. So we appreciate it very much.
Mayor, I did this 2 years ago when this cup was in this room, but I wanted to ask for a point of privilege. I wonder if council could get a photo taken with the cup.
Yay! We're going to come down. We'll come down.
Oh, that's kind of yeah. The late thing.
My 10-year-old's fall ball season finished last night, so I have to go home and tell him about that cup so he can aspire to more than fall ball victories. All right, we have on the agenda, we had on here two recognition and a proclamation for our sister city, Valladolid, Mexico, and we actually did that this afternoon. I had the opportunity to have lunch with the 13 members of the delegation from Valladolid, and Councilwoman Gwen Whistler was there with me and watched the thousands of pictures that we took. It was similar to, I joke, I feel like I got married all over again. We are lucky to have the mayor of Valladolid here right now. They all arrived. The entire entourage arrived Friday, and I met them for dinner that night, and they've been touring around, and today they went to Public Works and the police station, and they've been learning all about our city. And of course, former Mayor Russ Martin works closely with that group, he and his wife, and they have a whole committee with sister cities here in Asheville that works on all of our sister city projects, and that's the one that's going on right now. So that's exciting, and we took care of that, and that is why Gwen and I are wearing these colorful buttons. We have a final proclamation celebrating Food Day, and Councilmember Gordon Smith is going to meet Melanie. Are you here? Yes.
So I'm going to read this and hand it to you and then give you a couple minutes to let council know what this Food Day means. Whereas the health and well-being of our citizens is a primary concern for the city of Asheville, and whereas reducing obesity and diet-related diseases by promoting safe and healthful diets is one way of improving citizens' overall health, and whereas supporting sustainable family farms and local agriculture benefits the local economy, and whereas the Asheville Buncombe Food Policy Council is a forum for discussing food issues, influencing policy, and supporting programs that address local food needs, and whereas the Asheville Buncombe Food Policy Council consists of 7 clusters, which include land use policy, access, policy mobilization, education, farmer support, pollinator support, and water, and whereas expanding access to food and ending hunger is of critical importance for people who live where healthful food is difficult to obtain, and whereas reforming our farming practices to protect the environment and farm animals is necessary to sustain future generations, now therefore Esther E. Mannheimer, Mayor of City of Asheville, does hereby proclaim October 24, 2014 as Food Day in the City of Asheville and encourages all citizens to recognize this day with appropriate activities.
Hi, my name is Melanie Breathauer, and because I represent a rather diverse and strongly opinionated group of people, and we deal in consensus, I have a written statement that has been pre-approved. I am here representing the Asheville Buncombe Food Policy Council, and I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for declaring October 24th Food Day. Food Day inspires us all to look at our diets and our food policies. Food Day is a chance to celebrate what our food system does right and to take action to address what we can do better. Our area is often included in the national best of lists for lifestyle and food. However, there is one list where we would rather not be at the top. A 2013 report by the Food Research and Action Center ranks Asheville metropolitan area as the 9th hungriest city in the nation, with more than 1 in 5 residents experiencing food hardship. The Food Policy Council was formed in 2011. It is a community-based coalition working to achieve food policy improvements that create healthier food environments and improve access to healthy food. Our vision is multifold: access. That includes everyone for nutritious and food at all times. We are nutritionally self-sufficient, sustaining our population's year-round needs with locally grown, processed, and stored healthy food. Our communities are empowered and educated. They have access to resources and information. We recognize that intact, biodiverse, and healthy forest ecosystems provide abundant food and clean water in perpetuity. Therefore, we collaborate with neighboring counties to protect, conserve, and sustainably harvest. We support our farmers. Our agricultural-related economy thrives. Everyone enjoys the permanent legal right to food sovereignty, to cultivate, harvest, save seed, process, sell, share, and trade food, and have access to clean water, air, and land to grow that food in order to thrive and empower our resilience. The city and county government serve in partnership with the people to serve as a national example through strategic policies, appropriations, programs, and mandates, a place where our food shed and related economy are characterized by abundance, social justice, environmental sustainability, regenerative culture, and resilient communities. I would like to invite everyone to become involved in Food Day and in the Food Policy Council. We have Food Day activities listed on our Facebook page. And for every other day of the year, we have 7 clusters that address specific needs and are a good place to start for information and group discussion. And Gordon listed them before, but they're Access Cluster, Education Cluster, Farmer Support Cluster, Land Use Cluster, Policy Mobilization Cluster, Pollinator Support Cluster, and Water Clusters. Meeting times and days are listed on the website. All meetings are open to the public.
Thank you. Yes.
I have an unscheduled item. I'd like to make an introduction, if I could, this evening. Terrell, will you come up here? I'm going to embarrass him a little bit. I told him he wouldn't have to speak, but I want to introduce this very sharp young man. Terrell Maweta is a senior at A.C. Reynolds High School, and for his senior project, he has been trying to get us an advanced civics lesson. He attended the State of the City message that Mayor Mannheimer presented last week. He's been following me, attended your housing workshop this afternoon, and is going to be doing a report on graffiti, so he's attending the meeting tonight. This is the kind of leadership, youth leadership, that we really like to see. I wanted to commend you for taking an interest in this. He's also shadowing a businessman in Fairview who also has political aspirations. A Fairview farmer, I won't say which one, so we don't want to take sides in this, but he's trying to understand electoral politics, election politics, as well as the administration of local government. So that's a tall task for a senior in high school. I'm sure you're going to be a successful leader in your future.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Next, we have the consent agenda. Is there an item that anyone on council would like to pull out to be voted on separately, or is there an item that you have a question about? Nope. Or a motion?
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there anyone wishing to make comment on the motion? Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, wait a second.
Who was the second?
Gwen
Okay,
was
sorry.
one of the seconds.
Apologies.
We'll go with Gwen. Yes,
That's the one I heard.
yeah.
Mayor, members of council, Ken Michael, I'd like to pull item D2, budget amendment, in the amount of $500,000.
Maggie, have you started the clock? Mr. Michaelov, you're free to make comment on the motion to approve the consent agenda. If there's an item, you mentioned D2.
Yes.
If you'd like to make comment on that, please do so.
Is it standard operating procedure of the city where the city council adopts the operating and capital budget for the city council to formally amend those budgets from time to time? That's my question.
Okay. Do you have any other comments to make on the consent agenda?
If it is standard operating procedure, then why was it not done as it relates to Pack Place and the Art Museum in the capital budget for 2014 and 2015? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make comment on the motion to approve the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Any other further questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is adopted. We have no presentations and reports. Under public hearing item, and the mass exodus will now occur. Under public hearing item A, we have the continuation of the public hearing to consider the conditional zoning for Graymont Village Apartments. There has been a request to continue that item until December 9th. Do I have a motion to continue that?
So moved.
All right, and do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Anyone wishing to make comment on the motion to continue item A on the public hearings agenda? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. Item B, a public hearing to create a municipal service district for, 1, the South Slope. And for those of you who have lived here all your life and did not know what the South Slope was, that is the area south of Patton Avenue. Biltmore borders it on one side, South French Broad on the other. The River Arts District and North Charlotte Street. Kathy Ball is here to make the presentation.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council, thank you for the opportunity to be able to come before you and request the adoption of municipal service, 3 municipal service districts. I think this will require 3 separate votes, but I'm going to cover everything in one presentation. And I wanted to start, and I hope you'll bear with me, because my hope is that we can bring the community along as we have conversations around the innovation districts and municipal service districts. One of the things I wanted to clarify is just the terminology around it. So when we're talking about a municipal service district, that is the general statutes requires that the adoption be called a municipal service district. We are terming that an innovation district because this is more in line with what our plans are to do with these districts. So the two terms are synonymous, as well as the business improvement district. So when we're talking about those, and I will try to be consistent in my terminology, but I just wanted to make sure that either one of those, when we talk about either one of those, we're essentially saying the same thing. I wanted to start out with a little bit of history. There were, at the time that the community, downtown community group had gotten together and wanted to form a business improvement district, they came before council and requested action. On October the 12th, 2012, City Council adopted a business improvement district, also an innovation district, also a municipal service district, for the area that you see before you. And the map may be off a little bit on Ashland, but essentially this was the area that was adopted. So currently the city of Asheville has one municipal service district or innovation district. So this, what we're asking for tonight is that there would be an increase. And again, in the spirit of trying to help the community understand, because this is difficult complicated to explain and difficult to understand. So I wanted to try to take a little bit of time to make sure that folks knew what we were talking about. So a little bit more history. In fiscal year 2014, that was really the first year that the city had a strategic capital improvement program. The majority of our capital improvement program was more along the line of maintenance, that type of thing. At that time, we started working with a financial and a bond consultant to be able to help advise us on the best way to manage those financial responsibilities and quite honestly, get the most we could for our money. They provided us with the report. The name of the firm is called Parker Poe, and they provided a report outlining the various forms of financing mechanisms that were available to the city. One of those mechanisms that we are specifically talking about tonight is called a special obligation bond. A special obligation bond is a cost-effective way to finance projects, particularly those projects that are multimodal or infrastructure in nature. Projects financed through the special obligation bonds require that they have to be designated in a municipal service district or an innovation district. So what is a special obligation bond? A special obligation bond, it must meet general statute requirements in the way that the money is spent and the way it's borrowed. The collateral is taxes and fees that the city does not levy. So it's not property taxes that the city levies, but it's sales taxes, franchise taxes, other types for the whole city, not just the district that you're talking about. So that becomes the collateral, as opposed to installment financing where you collateralize a building. So the funding is identified for the projects that we're going to talk about in these districts in the 5-year capital improvement plan currently. So an overview, I wanted to talk about what we're doing, why we're doing it, the process, and the next steps. We are requesting that council adopt municipal service districts, and I keep saying that because according to general statutes, that's what council has to adopt, but we're referring as innovation districts. The focus is on infrastructure and redevelopment in specific areas that have the highest return on investment. Improving the community on a small scale, particularly these district areas, to increase our sustainability, and strategically investing in the triple bottom line. So that is what we're asking council's approval for. It is not intended to increase taxes, and it is not intended to create a new organizational structure. So why are we doing this? I've had some folks say, when we had the drop-in meeting, people were like, why have you picked these areas? Why are you working on these areas? it creates, the districts create an opportunity for the special obligation bonds, but the areas that have been selected have the opportunity to have an extremely high return on investment. And what I mean by that is that when you look at these specific areas, there's a lot of vacant property, there's a lot of underutilized properties. So the redevelopment of those pieces of property have the ability to add to the city's tax base for the whole community. So it's generating revenue that can be used for maintenance, it can be used for anything in the whole city, but it's an opportunity to really target areas to be able to leverage that increase. That strategically, we're investing in the triple bottom line within these districts as well. We're hoping to have less vehicle miles traveled, increase the health of people living in those communities, community satisfaction, job creation, and quite frankly, just happier people to be able to do that. So the process is very structured under the general statutes. Some of these items specifically had to be done and had to be done in a certain time frame. We did take this item before the PED Committee of Council, the Finance Committee. We sent direct letters to all the owners of real and personal property within the districts. We created reports for each district that was filed in the city clerk's office. We held a drop-in meeting. We had about 45 folks attend. We went to the Downtown Commission and the Riverfront Commission, and then we're here today with a public hearing. So next steps, specifically tonight, is the adoption of, request for the adoption of 3 municipal service districts. Moving forward, we will move into construction financing, and then after approximately 2 years, move into permanent financing for projects once they're completed. We will evaluate and measure the impact on the triple bottom line, and then we will evaluate and have continuous improvement once we get the metrics back. So specifically now, talking about the 3 districts that we are recommending be adopted. The first one is the River Arts District. And I'm not going to read all these because you can see that there are a number of projects that are planned or in the process of being planned for improvements within that specific district. Most of them are multimodal in nature, so the financing that we're talking about fits very well and matches very well with the recommendation. The River Arts District map is shown, and you can see it going along the RAD, basically the River Arts District Transportation Improvement Area. Some of those improvements that we talked about, I just mentioned, this is improvements to the roadway, adding additional greenways, and then another drawing of being able to create a parkway type look through there. So the South Slope Extension, that's the second one that we're requesting approval for. That includes projects such as the Lee Walker Heights mixed use, I should also say mixed income redevelopment, South Charlotte Street mixed use redevelopment, as well as Hilliard Avenue. There are others, but this is just to mention a few. So the South Slope Extension is the area that you see right here. There, at the public meeting, the drop-in meeting, there was some confusion about why this did not include the Central Business District, specifically the area in the Central Business District referred to as the South Slope. As you see from the map that I showed you at first of what was adopted, you can see that fits together. So that once these two are put together, it is basically an extension of that South Slope area. So then all of this area becomes available to be eligible as a municipal service district, and therefore we're able to use special obligation bond financing for projects in that area. So this is just a drawing that was done of the potential for redevelopment of the Hilliard Street property into a mixed use, mixed income, and that's where currently the park maintenance facility is now. Charlotte Street is primarily a multimodal improvement project with a widening of sidewalks, undergrounding utilities, and streetscape improvements. The area, you can see the map before you, and these are being able to create more of a pedestrian type environment along that street and being able to add those amenities. So the next steps, again, this is a repeat of what you saw before, the adoption of the 3 municipal service district, and again, just to repeat, the Central Business District is already included in those, and then move forward with the items that you see listed. And with that, Mayor, I will see if you have questions or want to open the public hearing.
Anyone have any questions before we open the public hearings? You have a question?
Let me make a suggestion, since it will be necessary to have 3 separate public hearings and vote on these independently, that, Kathy, if you would put up the River Municipal Service District, and Your Honor, that you and the council would open that public hearing and use that map as a point of reference and invite public comment about the creation of that. And then when you move to the second one, you would put up the South Slope, and finally, the third public hearing would be on Charlotte Street.
Okay, all right, so we need to open the public hearing on each of these separately and then vote on each of these separately. So bear that in mind when you make a decision about whether to provide comment. Maybe you wanted to comment on all of them generally or one specifically. So I'm going to open the public hearing on the creation of the Municipal Service District for the River Arts District first. If there's anyone wishing to make comment, please come forward. You should please state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak unless you're speaking on behalf of a group that includes 3 folks that waive their opportunity to speak, and then you can have 10 minutes. So if there's anyone wishing to speak on the River Arts District.
My name is Keith Jackson, and I own a building lot on Grandview, and it is included in this zoning overlay which you propose, and I don't understand why it's in this separate context of this service district. It's a residential building lot in a residential neighborhood, and I'm concerned that it's just not in context with your intent to have real estate included in this zoning overlay.
This is not a zoning overlay, so
Well, it's a taxing overlay.
okay, but the idea that you're
a taxing overlay.
and can you tell me, can you see where your property is up there? I don't know if that would, if it's too small or.
I can't read it to you yet.
Oh,
It's right here.
okay, thank you.
And another thing that concerns me is I think the value of my lot will be diminished by moving the power lines closer to my lot. It's called Grandview Street for a reason. And those power lines are going to be closer to my property. And another thing that concerns me is the construction of the service road that runs from New Belgium to Amboy Road. Can someone affirm that that will not be used as a service road for New Belgium to move beer across that road?
So we've got some folks here. So why don't we do this, since we've got other folks that want to make comment on this, and try to jot down your questions and see if we can get them all.
Back and speak about it.
Yeah, that would be.
But I would ask council to consider that this lot is not, to me, in context with the properties that you're including. This is a neighborhood residential building lot, and I don't understand the logic in having it in this taxing district. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the River Arts District, Municipal Service District?
City Council, Madam Mayor. My name is Brother Christopher Charamonti. You know, it says, he who does not remember the past is condemned to repeat it. I'm not going to speak just on the River Arts, because, you know, why repeat it 3 times? But this reminds me of something we were trying to do in downtown Asheville, only under a different name. You know how far that one in downtown went? Not very far. I think this one should not go very far. Because if I remember, the primary power it gives you is the right of taxation without representation. Remember downtown? They who do not remember their past is condemned to repeat it.
Anyone else wishing to provide comment on the River Arts District Municipal Service District?
I'm Wanda Wiggins, and I also own property on Craven Street right across from the New Belgian Brewery and on Georgia. And these are already zoned residential RM8 lots. Our intent, and we've been talking to several members of the city planning in that area, is that they really would like to have affordable housing units or a mixed use. And, that's not our vision. We're willing to, consider something else. But my concern with this, you say there's no tax increase, but after the improvements have been done, there's maintenance afterwards. So where does the money come, overall as far as taxes? So we haven't even built this development yet, and already, we're going to have to consider, telling potential customers, which again may deter anyone from wanting to purchase a home in that area, that you have this additional, you're within a different tax zone area, if you will. So that's my concern.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Patty Torno. I am the Asheville Area Riverfront Redevelopment Commission Chair. We have been working with the City of Asheville to fund a whole slew of infrastructure projects that will help accessibility to our riverfront. And my understanding about the MSDs here, specifically to the River Arts District, but I think in general, is that the intention is that this is a way for the city to be able to finance those improvements, in the sense of, I think the quote that I heard was, the city doesn't have a money problem, they have a cash flow problem. And so this is one way of us being able to get very affordable lending in place to be able to do a lot more sooner than we would if we were dependent on just the income that we have, the current income stream that we have. So because of that, and our commission's desire to see these infrastructure projects happen, we are in support of this and have spoken that. So I just want to reiterate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, City Council, I own property on Riverview, and I was just wondering, that's zoned residential as well, and what improvements could I see as a result of this?
Looks like it's outside. Okay, anyone else? Don't be shy, I'm worried I'm going to miss somebody.
Madam Mayor, City Council, I'm Lisa Ramsey. I just recently purchased property on the edge of the River Arts District just last month and received the letter, and am anxious for this to come. And it's a small lot and it's right on the river, so I am excited about any improvements that can be done to my property.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Anyone else who's been thinking about it but hasn't gotten up? No? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. There were a few questions. Do you want to address any of those? Or
The first question that I heard was that some folks were wondering why their residential property was included. And while I'm not sure about Mr. Jackson's, because I did not remember hearing or getting a call, but I know with Ms. Wiggins that she is not included within this district. The requirement that the general statutes lay out is that we have to notify all real and personal property owners. to get that data, it was fairly difficult to get the list of people who own vehicles within this area. What we got was zip codes. And so we went through a process of trying to sort through by addresses which ones belonged within this area. So some letters went to folks because it was just really difficult to match the vehicular information in the format that we got to the, and so we erred on the side of sending it to too many people versus sending it to too few to make sure that we met the statutory requirements. So I'm interested in going back with Mr. Jackson and looking at his piece of property, because I thought that on the west side of the river, the only thing that was really included was the area that Duke Progress owns for the Greenway improvements. There was also a question about the access road and the power lines. Those are under the control of Duke Progress. I don't know that I could speak to the questions that were asked about that, except that those will not be owned by the city, that there will be an easement. In the memorandum of understanding that we're working on with Duke, the city would not own or control those service roads that are being built and the relocation of the power lines. So I hope that answers the questions.
Thanks. Are there any other questions or comments from council or a motion?
I have a comment. I opposed the downtown bid because as it was drawn at the time, it included a special tax on people in that area, on property owners, and a non-elected body that would administer those taxes. We're not doing either of those things in this case. And although this does leave it open to a future council to impose special taxes, I'm still pretty comfortable supporting this at this time.
Anyone else have a comment? Or?
Mayor, I think that probably should be emphasized, what Councilmember Bothwell just said. This does not impose a special tax on those people in that district, at least at this time, and hopefully the return on investment will generate the cash flow that will enhance and enable the infrastructure changes, and the planning that takes place will make it a better place to be. The property is going to be more valuable, and that tax will flow into the general funds.
And to re-emphasize the points made by Council Members Bothwell and Davis, the reason that we're doing these is to be able to receive those special obligation bonds in order to fund the infrastructure improvements rather than doing property tax increases. And so this is a different way of coming at meeting those infrastructure needs, and that return on investment we anticipate paying for the maintenance.
So I'll move to approve the creation of a municipal service district to be known as the River Arts District Innovation District.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Did you get that, Maggie?
Gordon.
Gordon seconded. Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next one, South Slope. I will open the public hearing on the South Slope designation of the municipal service district. Is there anyone wishing to make comment on the South Slope Municipal Service District? Hold on.
Brother Christopher, again to the City Council, because I wasn't going to come back, but I want to go back to what was stated by Councilman Bothwell and Mr. Davis. Again, there's the if. If another council decides to tax or create a committee to tax, there's the if. It's like me saying, well, this is a brand new car, shouldn't have no problems. And if can mean a lot of things. It means that 6 months from now, if you decide, hey, we need a committee to put a tax, you can still do it. You have not put a limitation on that in this, what you just passed. So it's open for at any time, even for this city council, to decide to establish a council to tax. And understand, when you borrow money, you still got to pay it back. It belongs to someone else. It's called borrowing. They're not giving you this money, they're lending you this money, which means if you can't pay it back, you got to come up with the money somewhere. And you have the power to create a council to establish that, not go back to the individual districts and say, look, guys, you guys want more tax? And if they say no, then you don't. With a special council, they can go, hi, folks, kiss it, because we don't have to ask you for your permission. They who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And a liar is a liar. And it goes back to the joke. How do you tell when politicians are lying? Their mouth is moving and they're giving promises. Promises don't mean you're going to keep them, bro. Make covenant. Then you got to keep it.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Pete Kirshner on property at 268 Biltmore Avenue. And I got your letter the other day. And I know I have a question for Ms. Ball. What improvements are you planning for Biltmore Avenue? I know that was left off of the plan here. So I'm just wanting to know what you have in store for me. And that's basically why I'm here.
Okay. Let me get through everyone and see what kind of, if we've got anyone else that wants to make a comment on the south slope. Anyone else? Yes.
Madam Mayor, council members, I'm Craig Jeffries. I live in Lexington Station, which is in the south slope within the Central Business District. And I just wanted to generally say, personally, I support all three of these. But I wanted to raise the point of the word extension added to south slope. It's an important word added here that clarifies that it's different geographically than the south slope within the Central Business District. Mm-hmm. So I hope your formalities add extension.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And thank you, Kathy, for picking up on that.
Yeah. All right, anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing, and we had a good question about the plans for Biltmore. Kathy, if you want to talk about that, why that section has been included.
I think that maybe I misunderstood. I think the question was what is planned for Biltmore Avenue and what do we think will happen. I don't know that we don't have a definite plan, but as part of the redevelopment of the area, we would hope that there would be an opportunity to improve the pedestrian and bike environment in that area. And I would use this as an opportunity to encourage folks to come out to the symposium, the multimodal transportation symposium on October 25th on a Saturday at the U.S. Cellular Center banquet room to get their views out, because I think that the reason I bring it up with this is this could be a good opportunity for this section of roadway to be prioritized within that plan.
And I would also add that this particular area includes a complicated partnership we're working on to redevelop the Lee Walker housing project, which sits up above.
Mayor, one
Yes.
just clarification. The symposium on the 25th, is that at the Sherrill Center at UNCA, or is it the Civic at the?
It's at the U.S. Cellular Center.
It is.
Isn't it? Isn't that correct?
Okay. Great, thanks. I was
That's what I
confused
have on
about
my
that.
calendar.
Thanks for clearing it up.
We're inviting you to go to one more meeting, yet another meeting.
And if I may, to speak to Mr. Jeffrey's comment, if you hadn't noticed, the language in the heading of the resolution actually does say resolution creating a municipal service district to be known as the South Slope Extension Innovation District. So that comment's well taken.
Okay, do I have any other questions or comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt a South Slope Extension Municipal Service District or Innovation District.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, and the final one, Charlotte Street. I guess we're calling North Charlotte Street.
It's
But not-
actually named Charlotte.
It's just named Charlotte Street, okay.
The other one's South Charlotte, but this one's just Charlotte.
Okay. I will open the public hearing on the Charlotte Street Municipal Service District. Anyone wishing to make comment on Charlotte Street? Yes.
My name is Stephen Brady. I'm a property owner on Charlotte Street. I've been there since 1976. As I read what's in the newspaper, the reports that have been produced, they talk of Charlotte Street as a corridor for the affluent North Asheville residents as well as the affluent people who go to the Grove Park Inn. And Charlotte Street, they say, it's not an eyesore, but it doesn't really represent where these folks are going. Being a business owner on Charlotte Street since 1976, I began at the pub back in November '76. By the way, that's still in operation under the Charlotte Street Grill and Pub. Charlotte Street is really a neighborhood street of many small businesses and many small property owners. And my biggest concern with this is that the proposed $3.5 million or whatever it is that the city is going to raise to do this, at some point becomes a debt to us small property owners. The plan seems to believe that what we can do is we can combine multiple pieces of property and create big taxable real estate bases. In fact, in my short street, there are 3 different property owners. There are 4 different business owners, well, 3 business owners and 1 residential tenant. The business owners have got typically their life savings invested in these businesses. As a property owner, I've got a substantial amount of my net worth invested in real estate. And my concern is that at some point in time, this is not going to have paid for itself, and then the debt for doing this is going to fall to those of us that have property on the street.
Is your question that whether the debt is specifically tied to just these properties?
Well, as I understand it, I keep reading that it is not the intent of...
Yeah, no, so I just wanted to clarify that was your question, because that's not how it functions, I don't believe, but we'll get some clarity on that. I just wanted to make sure I understood your question.
Okay. And one final point, there are several narrow spots on Charlotte Street. I'm one of them. So I've got some concern about the additional right-of-way that is referenced in this. That's not been made clear to me. Thank you.
All right, anyone else wishing to make comment on the Charlotte Street MSD? Yes?
Hi, Madam Mayor, Council. How's everybody doing? Thank you for having me. My name's Adam Charnak. Resident in Montford, so I'm not too far away. I also own a business on the South Slope, and I just wanted to say thank you very much for doing this. I think it's fantastic. The sidewalk has been improved in our neighborhood on the South Slope recently, our business's neighborhood, and it's amazing to actually see people walking down the street again. So it's fantastic, and further improvements I think are great. I'm excited to see a neighborhood commercial corridor to receive some attention as well. A lot of attention is spent downtown, rightfully so, and to see some infrastructure improvements in a neighborhood commercial corridor, I'm excited about that. And I just wanted to also encourage the planners to consider as much on-street parking as possible. Just a reminder that on-street parking slows down cars, makes the pedestrian experience safer, encourages multimodal transportation, and the more parking spaces we can have on the street, the less we can have off the street. Which allows those properties to be used for the return on investment that we're seeking to finance these bonds with. So, and if you think about traffic concerns with having on-street parking, just keep in reducing traffic flow. Just one thing to keep in mind: this is only a mile stretch of street. And if you sort of think of, I always like to think of these sort of corridors in larger cities, and Boston, Chicago are great examples, and pretty much all street and neighborhood commercial corridors in those cities have on-street parking, and they're managed to function somehow. So again, just want to throw that out there and just say thank you again for everything. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, anyone else? right, I'm going to close the public hearing on Charlotte Street. Oh, sorry. See, you can't wait too long.
Mayor, members of council, this is a neighborhood street, and we're trying to make it a major traffic street. Merriman Avenue should be the focus, and the state should be responsible for widening Merriman Avenue. We've got Broadway that is minimally used. We're not using the streets we have. We're not upgrading 240 like it should be. We've wasted 20 years in trying to make something happen there, and we force traffic onto Charlotte Street. And I personally believe this is a waste of $3 million to put into Charlotte Street. Thank you.
If that closes the public hearing.
Okay, I'm reclosing the public hearing, and assuming no one else wanted to speak. Okay, yes.
To the first point, and I just checked with the Director of Finance and Management Services, these special obligation bonds commit the full faith and credit of the city. They are not localized in terms of their obligations. So these would be, as indicated in the first public hearing by Councilman Smith, this is an opportunity for the entire city and its full breadth of credit rating and debt retirement capacity to retire these bonds that they have a localized benefit, but they're a general obligation.
Okay, so the debt will not be tied to the property specifically. It's citywide debt. Kathy, were there any other questions or concerns? Yes.
The other question I think was when we are looking to expand the sidewalk area and additional right-of-way is needed, if that right-of-way is either not available or is occupied by a building. We recognize that when you're dealing with existing businesses, that they're not created equal. So there may be situations such as in front of Mr. Brady's building that we wouldn't be able to get a full 10-foot width, that was the section that we were looking for, but we wouldn't recommend tearing down the building to get that. We would just try to meander the sidewalk so that it would work, and there may be a short distance with it that we don't have. But until the design is complete, we won't know all the answers to that.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I have any other questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the Charlotte Street Municipal Service District.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that concludes the public hearing to create municipal service districts. The item C, public hearing to consider an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance regarding residential development density standards in certain commercial zoning districts. The staff has requested a continuance of the public hearing until December 9th. Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Okay, I had dueling motions. Jan motioned it and Chris seconded it. How about that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Unfinished business. I like how it's a comprehensive discussion. Comprehensive discussion of the graffiti removal incentive.
Not like we hadn't had one already. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, pleasure to be here again tonight to talk to you about different alternatives on how to deal with larger sites that have been vandalized by graffiti. Just a quick background information. The last time we met on September 23rd, y'all approved an extension of the $500 cleanup initiative for property owners that have graffiti on their property and sign a waiver allowing us to enter their property to clean it and hold the city and our contractors harmless. This extension applies only to those who haven't taken advantage of this initiative in the past. The time frame is until September 30th, 2015, or until all the monies have been allocated that have been spent. Just really simply, our goals are, one, to remove graffiti, and number two, to have a sustainable program to continuously eradicate graffiti in our city. An update from since we've last met. As of the 13th, we've removed 198 incidences, tags, using about a little over 17% or $50,400 of the allocated $300,000. So far, we have 90 properties that in our inventory that we haven't completed yet. Just another plug for our graffiti 123 Graffiti free website. This gives you live feed on where we're at and how we're doing on removing graffiti in our city. This is a live link right here, but I won't go there. But if you go there, you can see on the map where most of it's taking place. Here's where how we've spent the money over the past little over 3 months. Words continues to get out. We continue to see increases in folks contacting us, and we're contacting them and being able to help remove graffiti. And those are percentages of the $50,400. This graph really shows a lot to me. Is most of the things that we're dealing with are very small, or $500 or less. That just smaller tags. And I gave you some wrong information the last time we were here. The number of large ones, 5,000 and greater, are 7. I think I told you between 10 and 15, and we had some of those from the 501 to 5,000 in that one. Apologize for that. But based on, you can see the extension that you approved last time is going to take care of a large part of the issues that we have already. I have 2 proposals tonight. One is that we stay on the course that we're on and pay $500 as a one-time city contribution to remove graffiti on properties that haven't utilized the program before. Again, the timeline would be until September 30th, 2015, or until the funds are exhausted. This is a financial breakdown of what we feel like it would take and who pays what to eliminate all 90 of those sites. Since the last time, we called a lot of the folks who have these large sites and asked them what would it take. We had talked to most of them before. Our staff compliance officers had talked to them, but I wanted to talk to them myself. And basically it's stuff that they had already told our compliance officers. They didn't feel like it would be successful because they just felt like it would happen again. Each and every one of them that I spoke to, and I didn't speak to all of them, but over half of them, stated that they had already cleaned it up before and only to have it vandalized again. And most said they couldn't afford to remove it or to have it painted over. Some of them said they could, but they didn't feel like it was a good investment in their money. And a few said they would be willing to pay a minimal amount towards the removal, but they would just have to, they may change their mind when we actually talk to them about it. So, alternative 2, a 100% one-time cleanup with no maximum amount of city participation. The thinking here is that some of these large ones have taken months or years to get to the level that they're at. And we feel like that working with APD, we would be able to, they may come back, but if we stay on them and stay consistent and persistent with them, that although it may take $15,000 to clean it up the first time, it shouldn't get that bad again. It may take $500 to clean it up next time. This is some information that I've already shared, but as of the 9th, the program has spent $50,400 with 90 properties, and projected cleanup costs of, if we were to go with alternative 2, would be $159,950. Total project amount, projected rather, would be $210,350. That includes the $50,400 that we've already allocated. In summary, staff recommends that we select the first alternate. Based on discussions with most of the property owners impacted and a lot of city staff, whether it be legal, city manager's office, public works, APD, we've not been successful in finding an equitable way to distribute the funds for larger sites. And I'm not a person who likes to give up, or I like to be successful, but this one has been a tough one to do to make sure that we're fair. Your comments would be appreciated, and guidance.
Greg, are you finding property owners that would like to have it removed, or are a percentage of them property owners that don't really care that it's on their property and just aren't particularly motivated to get it removed?
Of the larger group that have the small ones, the more they find out about it, the better. Most of those folks are now being receptive. We're seeing about 10% of the folks who are in the 500 range that it doesn't cost them anything. Only about 10% are not being receptive to our proposal. So that's 64 of the 90 sites there. So that part of the program we feel like is working well. And hopefully, as you drive or walk or bike through downtown, you can see where some of these have been removed. I know I can, maybe I just, because I'm involved with it so much, I'm starting to notice. Would I love to get some of the larger ones down? I would. I'm not sure of the best way to do that with public funds.
Great.
Question. Greg, can you describe October 1st is the day where the ordinance was to be enforced. Can you talk about the transition toward enforcement and how that has gone so far? Where are we pace-wise, and how does that integrate? If we were to adopt alternative one, how does the enforcement sort of get into place as we would maintain, the incentive?
Certainly, and I may ask for some help with council here, but the way we would like to start sending the letters out, the notification, not that they need a letter to know they have graffiti on their property, but we intend for them to remove it within 7 days on or about November 1st. I think that day is actually on a Saturday, so it'd be in that time frame. And continue to work with the property owners and say, we would like to give you a $500 incentive one time to remove the graffiti. If not, then it would be more of a legal issue.
So are you sort of saying that, okay, we're going to send the letter so that everybody will know we're going to enforce, but oh, by the way, we still have this program in effect, and they get the message at the same time? Is that roughly what we're talking about here?
That is correct. Robin, I don't know if you need...
Great. I just wanted to get clear, because I do, the idea all along is that this is a transitional period where, we want to make it clear that, the duty ultimately is with the landowner, and some of the comments you got back from landowners suggest that maybe they're not quite seeing that yet, but that's only just my take on a rough presentation. So you've answered my question. I appreciate that.
I was going to say, too, there's a two-step process before we can really enforce. There's something called a notice of removal we have to send, and then after that, if they don't respond to that, then there's a subsequent notice of violation. So they'll have plenty of a heads up.
Right.
Okay. So for the large sites, when they said, you said that the majority told you that they had cleaned it up before and then it came back. Did you talk to them about this idea that if you remove it all and then you keep on it and eliminate it, every time something shows up, and that you think that that's successful? Did anybody try that approach, or?
It varied, to be honest with you. Most of the folks who had the larger ones, their biggest concern was that there was very little that legally could be done, and they recognized that most of that rests in our state legislature. But they felt like that enforcement of this is tough, but even if you catch them, there's very little that can be done with them. I'll talk to them about the enacting of the civil penalties that the city has adopted. But Bottom line, most of them just felt like that it was in vain.
I know I've seen one photograph online of one that was cleaned up and retagged already. How, has that happened often?
The last time I was here, it hadn't happened. We'd had, I think, 4 sites that had been hit, and then we went to them a second time, and there had been, at that time, a total of 4 weeks that went by that nothing had happened. I can't say that anymore.
Okay, so we have the option, as I understand it at this point, to make no change to the course we're currently on, and that means we will move into this enforcement period, but with the program still available for some transition period. And the enforcement process may also provide opportunity to negotiate with some of these larger folks if with cleanup that's going to be costly. Or we could do something to modify the program to address the larger pieces of graffiti. Is there an inclination to go one way or another, or fortunately we have a do nothing option here, which puts us keeps us at the status quo?
Greg, can you put up the options again?
The first one?
The first one, yes.
And again, if I may, this part of the incentive really seems to be working well, because as far as volume, the larger sizes still continue to be a problem, but as far as the graph that shows 64 of the 90 fall within this. Again, doesn't mean that we're going to get all 64. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I probably should have said earlier on, this is just a snapshot. This is really a dynamic inventory, as you might imagine. We clean them up, we get new ones. We're finding that a lot of property owners are actually starting to clean their own now, city not being involved. So that part of it was reassuring as well. Sorry to interrupt your thought.
I think for me, I mean, I think we all would have hoped for, complete participation and a complete cleanup, and it's probably unrealistic to see that. But for me, I think this option, this proposal 1, seems like the path forward, that it's going to get us the most results and bang for the buck, so to speak, and gives us a little more time to get as many as we can.
Okay, anyone else?
Is that a motion, Chris?
Yeah, Chris.
Sure.
Although we don't need a vote if we,
if
we're keeping on,
right.
keeping on. Do we want to
I
just?
second your non-motion.
That's, yeah.
I'm fine with that, Mayor.
Yeah, I think that's favorable.
All right, I think we have a majority.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
All right. That concludes the unfinished business. We have some new business. And Alan Glines does not look like Paul Featherston, but is Paul here?
I'll begin the introduction, and Paul can elaborate when he gets here. He was planning to be
This is
here.
one of those moments where we're too fast.
Yeah, I think he might have thought there were more speakers anticipated under the graffiti removal. City workforce and investments that are before you tonight.
He is here. Making his 6th appearance.
My apologies. I thought you were further behind.
No, we're like speedy, super speedy.
Okay, so there are 3 items that we were asking for you to consider tonight relative to the city workforce investments. 2 are budget adjustments, and 1 is a authorization to execute a contract. So as you know, there's been an economic recovery that we are benefiting from. There's a lot more development growth that the community is seeing, and so there's a lot more activity that we are seeing within the development services area and across the city, which is a great thing. But it's also having impacts. It's having impacts on our staffing resources. And so we're proposing tonight some avenues to address those. and one is on the internal services side. So when we have external facing services, the impact is definitely on them, but it also impacts how we support those departments. And so in two areas, we proposed adjustments. One is in the human resource area and one is in communications. So in development services, recruiting and long-term retention is something that we have focused on. As you know, one of the priorities that the City Council has identified is the classification and compensation study, which is underway. That will address classification and compensation across the organization, including the development services area. And what we're proposing to support development services, because of the retention, we're having a retention issue, a recruitment and retention issue. So when the economy gets better, there's certain sectors that are harder to recruit and retain because they become hot commodities. And so development services was one of those. And with the retirements at the retirement program at the county, we've been competing with the county for some of our own staff. And so we've come up with a plan to funnel some resources into development services so that we can make sure that we make market adjustments where necessary to retain the employees. But the other way that we want to do it is because since there's such a focus on some of these services in development services, that we are looking to enhance the HR support. So right now, there is no dedicated resource to DSD or any department related to HR. So what we're proposing is to take a model that shifts how we are appropriating HR resources, where people within HR will be assigned to departments, and we're proposing to add one position in HR that will be dedicated to DSD and another of other public works areas. So it becomes a strategic partner in that area to support their goals and to also enhance the way that we are serving our customer internally, but also externally. And then in communication and public engagement. So telling the city's story is very important. And what we're proposing is that we add one resource in communication, which will be embedded in public works. So what happens is the communication resource will report to our communication and public engagement manager, Dawa, but it'll be embedded within public works, so they will be a part of that team. So they will know the story from the get-go and be able to really get in front of issues and get in front of telling the stories. So so there's three resources we are proposing adding. Two are in the human resource field, and one is in the communication and public engagement field. So as identified before, the classification and comp study, this is the third item we're asking for. This is a priority for the council and for the administration. There were 7 proposals received. We went out to RFP for the consultant services. We received 7. We reviewed all of them. We are recommending Siegel Waters Consultant, and they have given us a timeline which will ensure that their work will influence the 2015 and 2016 budget. So that is on the comp side. So just to reiterate on the 2 budget amendments, we're asking you to appropriate general fund revenue from increased development growth. This is ongoing funding. So in the current budget, there was an increase estimated of $800,000 in revenue, in development-related revenue. Well, it has performed well. That finance is comfortable enough to say that they believe that we can easily go up to $1.1 million more from last year, so that extra $300,000 for ongoing. And so staff is very comfortable with that. And then the transfer from the health fund to the general fund, it's one-time funding. This will help us pay for the comp classification study. So those are the 2 items, the 3 items we were asking for. And if you have any questions, we have staff from HR, finance, and communications and public engagement to address those.
For the pay study, for the salary study, does that include the APD's plan? Okay, so that's also...
It's the whole city.
It's okay, so it's all city employees.
Yeah.
And then just one comment that having that public information within Public Works sounds like a great idea. People are spending their tax dollars and they deserve to know where it's going, and I'm glad we're going to be able to better communicate that stuff.
Great.
Anyone else have a question? Do I need 3 separate motions?
I think you need 2. Both of the budget amendments were combined into one.
So 1 and 2 can be one motion.
Move to approve the budget amendment in the amounts of $300,000 and in the amounts of $200,000 as stated in the staff report.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Anyone wishing to comment on this in the public? So, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I need a motion for number 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to authorize the contract with Siegel Waters for the classification and compensation study.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Anyone wishing to comment on the motion? No? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. So, and finally, we have boards and commissions. I'll turn it over to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Boards and Commissions Committee met earlier today. We've got, I think, 3 items. The first is Homeless Initiative Advisory Committee. Our committee recommends reappointments of the 3 sitting members for the 3 vacancies. They're all eligible. Those are Charles Rosenblum, Sabrina Naraven, and Jay Lively.
Move to approve.
Not kidding.
Second.
Other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have 1 vacancy on the Recreation Board. The committee recommends interviewing Mr. Merrithew and Mr. Rowland for that 1 spot. And those interviews would be, Maggie, 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks, that's correct.
Sounds good.
So that's a motion from the committee.
Second.
Any discussion, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
We are moving into the interview phase for Planning and Zoning Commission appointments. We established last month, early last month, I believe, that we would like to interview a maximum of 6 people for the 3 spots that are open. There are 3 sitting members all eligible for reappointment, and they would automatically be interviewed. Those are Jeremy Goldstein, Jane Matthews, and Christy Carter. So those would be 3 of the 6 interviewees. Of the applicants that came forward, we ran a process that the city clerk, Maggie Burleson, conducted and gathered input from council members. And based on preferences, the following 3 are supported for those 3 interview spots: Laura Hudson, Arthur Ohlendorf, and Peter Albrecht. And I believe that we will move forward with that. It doesn't require a vote to move forward unless there is any last-minute concern about that policy we set there. I believe that wraps up, no, that wraps up all our activities for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our agenda. I have 4 people signed up to speak. The first is Mr. Michaelov.
Terminating the lease between Pack Place and the city of Asheville is a colossal, illegal boondoggle created by Mayor Manhammer, Vice Mayor Hunt, and City Manager Jackson, and supported by the remainder of the City Council without a negative vote. What have you done wrong? At least 20 things, and here's 3 minutes highlighted. You gave in to the political pressure of the Art Museum to create separate leases. You covertly, no formal budget amendment, changed the 2015 capital budget, eliminating $2 million Art Museum economic development tax for 2014 and substituting a new project under maintenance called Pack Place Maintenance, $2 million to be spent in 2017. So the taxpayers are paying $6 million extra for work that wasn't done in 2014. You did this to avoid tax increases in 2015. You had no formal vote, and the council covertly tried to eliminate the heat received from the public for initially budgeting the $2 million art museum tax. Some council actions regarding Pack Place have been taken that violate open meetings law. City Council hired Fred Barber, an outside attorney, and paid him over $33,800 as of July 14th, likely close to $50,000 now. This expense was not budgeted. And then Vice Mayor Hunt and City Manager Jackson had the gall to thank Barber publicly on July 22nd for the wonderful job he did, like he volunteered to do the work. You've destroyed Pack Place, their purpose, and you dealt as a dictator with the Pack Place board. The Coburn was pressured to leave Pack Place because they were afraid their interests would not be treated fairly, and they were correct. Direct lease advertising, July 25th through August the 4th, in the Citizen Times. August 4th, you promised to have consummated those leases. It's October the 14th, and no leases have been consummated. The council should re-advertise and give the public an opportunity to comment. Vice Mayor Hunt made a big deal in his speech about there being the need for a change. Well, it's not Pack Place that needed to be changed. Friendships and politics has not led to good decision-making regarding Pack Place.
The next speaker I have signed up to speak is Mr. Charamonte.
City Council, Madam Mayor, Brother Christopher Charamonte. James, the brother of Jesus, said, "Show me your faith without works, and I'll show you my faith through my works." I'm still waiting for the Christians on this City Council to, according to the rules, show their faith by their works, by reestablishing prayer at the City Council and asking God to come back in. Solomon, who was the wisest of all kings, had some proverbs, and I'm going to give you a few. Proverbs 14:1 says, "Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh down with her hands." Proverbs 14:2, "He that walketh in his uprightness feareth the Lord, but he that is perverse in his ways despises him." Proverbs 14:12 says, "There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof the ways of death." Proverbs 14:9, "Fools make a mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favor." Proverbs 14:25 says, "A true witness delivereth the soul, but a deceitful witness speaketh lies." Proverbs 14:26 says, "In the fear of the Lord a strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge." The word of the Lord, according to Yeshua, "As I am called to be his prophet, I speak now in his name." In Revelation 6 it says, "And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard it, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see." Revelation 6:8. "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth." One day I stood at this City Council and I talked about the three seals: the white horse, Bush Sr., the red horse, Bush Jr., the black horse. I didn't name him. The officer wondered if I was going to say Obama. But I do tell you this in the name of Yahweh: the fourth seal is broken. Pride cometh before the fall, and we think we are so great a nation that we can keep our borders open to Ebola. And also, it has been stated that the diseases hitting the kids today have come from the kids of South America this summer. Your children are about to die. Why? Because you slaughter unborn children. You speak nothing about the death of innocents. yet you will fly a flag of abomination. Let me remind you what the rainbow represents. That God will no longer judge this world with a flood.
Thank you. The next person I have signed up to speak is Mr. Robert. It's okay.
Since I last spoke at council about Chief Anderson's violations of this council's civil liberties resolution by filming peaceful protests and subsequently not destroying those tapes, it seems that even more distressing news about the Asheville Police Department has surfaced. I'm speaking now about recent media coverage detailing APD's woeful understaffing and the fact that they're quickly burning through their allotted budget for overtime. I'll quote a recent statement from Lieutenant Byrd at the department. He said, "We've had vacancies throughout our patrol division, throughout our whole department." Now, some on council have suggested cute explanations for this mass exodus, namely that there's been an improved economy. I call that into question. Further quoting Lieutenant Byrd on morale at the department under Chief Anderson, "We have had folks who are leaving and going to smaller agencies for less money to essentially get better working conditions. These are not, as some on council would suggest, officers leaving to go into the private sector. Case in point, 4 detectives have recently resigned from APD, only to go right across the street and get jobs at the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department. Now, these are detectives, ladies and gentlemen, with long careers in law enforcement, where considerable time and resources have gone into cultivating these folks. Now, they're leaving. Why? I would suggest that anyone who honestly looks at this department from the outside would realize that there's a severe mismanagement issue at work here. So just curious, I went and examined Chief Anderson's past performance at his prior command posts, namely in Greenville, North Carolina, and in DeLand, Florida. And what I discovered, frankly, led me to question whether or not members of this council are even able to use Google correctly. Okay? To wit, Chief Anderson's last post in Greenville, there were the following issues. It was alleged that the chief altered a police report for a member of city council at their request. Let's see, altered police reports, where have we heard that before? A citizen petition was raised that asked their council to look into accusations of officers being mistreated, mishandling of government funds, and more, and an official complaint was filed against the chief by the local chapter of the NAACP. Excuse me. Now, this goes even further back to his performance in DeLand, Florida during the early 2000s. There's a 22-page grievance filed by Commander Randy Henderson that talks about qualified officers leaving to go to other departments under Chief Anderson's mismanagement. The Orlando Sentinel quoted a Commissioner Maureen Francis citing that the chief of police needed to resign due to poor management. France, whose husband was a DeLand police lieutenant.
If you have anything in writing, you can submit it.
Excellent. I do. I just want to say that a great man, Martin Luther King, once said that it comes a time when people should be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I think the character of Chief Anderson has been found significantly lacking, and I ask that this council do something. We've got a 10% bump in crime.
Thank you very much. I have the next speaker I have signed up to speak is Tim Sadler.
And it's because of this issue. Council,
thank you.
Do your jobs.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Timothy Sadler, and on a lighter note, I wanted to take a moment to commend Mayor Manheimer for having the courage to fly the pride flag. I thought that was a really awesome thing that happened here, and then also wanted to commend City Council as a whole for the commitment and energy around prioritizing affordable housing. It was really great to be a part of the meeting, the work study session earlier, and see the interest in the community, packed out room like that, and to know that y'all are listening. Now, kind of on to the main reason I came out to give public comment tonight, and That is to give an aspirational suggestion of creating an Asheville artist residency program. Basically, this idea came to me while engaging on the issue of revising the busking rules, and Ms. Sparrow-Pants pointed out that there's a study that finds the communities that have the best policies in place for their buskers end up attracting the best talent and also experiencing the least crime and negative that comes along with it. And so I started thinking about how important it is to protect the To All My Dear Friends of the world, or the Alex the Super Jugglers of the world. You know, how much value that adds to this community for the folks just passing through. And what if we had a housing program where folks could submit a proposal on how they plan on adding value to this community, whether it be going to senior living homes and playing music and engaging folks in chair dancing, for instance. That would be a tremendous value added proposition for our community. And with a small capital investment that we may be able to find from the TDA to build a housing project that is directly advancing, or giving tourists a better experience, while they come through town. So just something for y'all to think about.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The final speaker I have signed up to speak is Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. My name is Tim Harrison, and I am a resident of the city of Asheville. The comments I have to make this evening are in light of being a city taxpayer, and I hope that you will keep them in that context. They're not here to present any type of opinion, but rather just to express some concerns about as a taxpayer. On February the 9th of 2010, the City Council voted 4-2 to support a motion by Council Member Smith supporting benefits for city employees in same-sex relationships. After the passage of Amendment 1 to the North Carolina Constitution in July of 2012, the city decided to continue the domestic partner benefits for city employees. And the city Assistant City Attorney Martha Walker McGlowan was quoted in local media saying, "The city will continue to administer policy consistent with how we did before the amendment was passed." In light of the action on Friday by Judge Cogburn striking down the Amendment 1, the reason I'm coming here today, this evening, is to ask if this policy is still necessary for our city. In the past, same-sex partners did not have an option to receive city employee benefits as the current policy until it was overturned and the new policy was established. But now that same-sex partners do have the right to be married in the state of North Carolina and therefore should be eligible for the same benefits as heterosexual couples, it seems that this policy is outdated and should be struck down now as being no longer needed in our city. The other reason I would say that this is necessary is that if we don't make this change, it appears to me that in order to be non-discriminatory, you would also have to grant those same rights to heterosexual partners who are living in a non-married relationship. So I would ask you to consider putting that on an agenda for a future discussion, and thank you for your time.
That's a good point. Maybe that would be something that should be examined. I saw that the North Carolina court allowed Speaker Tillis and President Pro Tem Berger's motion to intervene in the case. So maybe we want to wait till that's resolved. But in any event, I think that's a legitimate issue to discuss. For one, is there anyone else here who is not signed up but would like to make a comment tonight?
Hello, my name is Judy Strong. I personally want to say that I oppose the flying of the flag of Gay Pride because Christians should have the right to have their own crutches at city buildings. You are extending an opinion that you support that decision, and I don't think that's appropriate for this body. The other thing is, I really am upset with the fact that the Pack Place issue is definitely going to increase the taxes that we have to pay in Asheville City. And I think that's a mistake. That's a sadness to me, because the way the system was set up before, it was functioning. Somebody decided they wanted to have it different in the art museum. I believe that's who the person who instigated all this. And you've given her a lot of power. And that includes taking money from my pocket to support something that was functioning well on its own. I think that's a mistake. You're supposed to be our representatives to make sure that our taxes are spent correctly. You've jeopardized that. And I'm sorry that that's happened. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to provide comment tonight? Okay, I think we have a motion for a closed session.
I move the Asheville City Council go into closed session for the following reasons. 1, to prevent disclosure of information that is privileged and confidential pursuant to the laws of North Carolina, or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes. The law that makes the information privileged and confidential is North Carolina General Statute 143-318.103. The statutory authorization is contained in NC General Statute 143-318.11A1. 2, to establish or to instruct the city's staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the city in negotiating the terms of a contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease. The statutory authorization is contained in NC General Statute 143-318.11A5. 3, to discuss matters relating to the location and expansion of industries. The statutory authorization is contained in NC General Statute 143-318.11A4.
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and we will adjourn from the closed session.